One murder case, a split jury, witnesses who later withdrew their statements, and even support from Kim Kardashian. For over 2 decades, the case of C. Murder has kept the hip-hop world debating a single question: is he truly guilty, or was he wrongfully convicted? The story starts long before any courtroom drama. Cory Miller, who later became famous as C. Murder, was born on March 9, 1971. He was raised in uptown New Orleans, Louisiana, in the harsh Calliope projects of the city's 3rd Ward with his sister Jermaine and brothers Silk the Shocker, Master P, and Kevin Miller. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, the Calliope projects were known as one of the most dangerous places in a city already battling serious crime. Life there was difficult, and those streets deeply influenced the early lives of the Miller family. Yet they would not remain trapped in that world forever. Cory's older brother Percy Miller, widely known as Master P, was a skilled high school basketball player who earned a scholarship to the University of Houston. Still, he left school just a few months into his freshman year. After their grandfather died, Percy received nearly $10,000 from a malpractice settlement and used it to start a small record store named No Limit Records. What began as a modest shop would later grow into one of the most influential labels in hip-hop history. Right in the center of that success was Cory Miller, performing under the stage name C. Murder. He started gaining recognition in the mid-1990s through his brother's No Limit Records, particularly as part of the label's rap group TU. TU was a trio made up of Master P and his brothers, C. Murder and Silk the Shocker. When No Limit Records stepped into the spotlight, the group was everywhere. It felt as if a new project dropped almost every month, and fans nationwide couldn't get enough of their sound. After graduating high school, Cory Miller enlisted in the United States Army. He trained as a combat medic and was deployed to the Persian Gulf during the Gulf War. Many fans were unaware of this chapter of his life. Long before entering a recording studio, he had already served as a soldier. After completing his service, he returned home and joined his brother in the music industry. In 1998, Miller released his debut album Life or Death, which reached number 3 on the Billboard 200 and was later certified platinum. The project proved he was more than just Master P's younger brother and helped establish him as a strong solo artist. In 1999, he followed up with Bossolini, which climbed to number 2 on the Billboard 200 and earned gold certification. A year later, in 2000, he released Trapped in Crime, peaking at number 9 on the same chart. 3 albums in 3 years, all landing in the top 10. At that point, C. Murder was clearly at the peak of his career. Over the years, he released 9 albums through 6 different labels, including No Limit Records, TIU Records, Koch Records, Asylum Records, RBC Records, and Venti Uno Records. But on January 12, 2002, everything changed. In September 2003, Miller was found guilty of second-degree murder tied to a January 12, 2002 incident involving a fan, Steve Thomas, a 16-year-old who died after a violent altercation at the Platinum Club, a nightclub in Harvey, Louisiana that has since closed. The case quickly attracted national attention. A teenage fan had lost his life, and investigators soon turned their focus toward Cory Miller. The incident happened on the night of January 12, 2002, when Steve Thomas was badly injured and later died at the Platinum Club in Louisiana. Reports say the nightclub was packed that evening. C. Murder was either performing or present as a well-known guest. At some point, tensions rose and the situation quickly turned chaotic. A fight reportedly started, and amid the confusion, a gun was fired. Steve Thomas was hit during the altercation and sadly lost his life. During the early morning hours of January 18, Cory Miller was arrested after an unrelated disturbance at the House of Blues in New Orleans. Shortly afterward, authorities linked him to Thomas's death, and he was officially indicted on February 28, 2002. The prosecution's case depended largely on eyewitness accounts. A club security guard, Donnell Jordan, claimed he saw C. Murder fire the weapon. Another witness, Kenneth Jordan, who was not related to Donnell, also stated that he saw Miller pull the trigger. Based mainly on these testimonies, the rapper was convicted of second-degree murder. In simple terms, 2 witnesses, both with the last name Jordan but unrelated, said they saw C. Murder shoot the gun. Their statements became the foundation of the entire case. However, this is where the story becomes more complicated. According to defense attorney Philip C. Hamilton, there was no physical evidence directly linking Miller to the crime. Investigators never recovered a firearm tied to him. No DNA evidence was presented. There was no surveillance footage and no confession. Essentially, the prosecution relied on the statements of two main witnesses who said they saw what happened. No gun recovered, no DNA, no video, no confession, only two eyewitnesses accusing C. murder. The legal battle that followed moved through several stages and raised issues that people still discuss today. In April 2004, Martha Cohn approved a new trial after ruling that prosecutors had improperly withheld criminal background details about three witnesses. This information was crucial. The first conviction was overturned because important details about those witnesses had not been shared with the defense. As a result, the jury in the original trial never received the full picture of the people testifying against C. murder, including parts of their criminal histories that might have affected their credibility. On March 20, 2006, Cory Miller was released on a $500,000 bond and placed under house arrest. During that period, C. murder continued working on his projects. Judge Martha Saswan permitted him to promote his upcoming, then untitled album along with his novel Death Around the Corner while he remained confined at home, though a gag order tied to the case stayed in effect. However, before the retrial for the murder charge could begin, another legal matter surfaced that further harmed C. murder's public reputation. That on May 27, 2009, Miller entered a no-contest plea to 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder. The charges were related to a 2001 incident in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where authorities said Miller fired a shot from a semi-automatic pistol during a dispute with a nightclub owner and a bouncer after they refused to let him enter the venue while carrying the weapon. Miller received a 10-year sentence with credit for time already served. This case was separate from the earlier homicide case but still became part of his legal record. Situations like this can sometimes make it harder for juries to view a defendant without bias, even when they are instructed to ignore past incidents. Then the second murder trial began. On August 5, 2009, the proceedings officially started again. During the trial, Steve Thomas's father spoke about how his son had been a fan of C. murder before the tragic night. A nightclub security guard also testified against Miller, claiming he saw the moment the gun was fired. The witness said he feared possible retaliation for speaking in court. Prosecutors also filed charges against several people connected to C. murder, accusing them of trying to influence witnesses involved in the case. The trial moved quickly, and eventually the case went to the jury. On August 10, 2009, jurors reported they were deadlocked and unable to reach a final verdict. However, Hans Liljeberg instructed them to continue deliberating and attempt to settle their disagreement. Around 3 hours later, the jury returned to the courtroom and announced a 10-2 decision, finding Miller guilty. The judge noted that, considering the earlier deadlock followed by the rapid verdict, it seemed possible that one juror may have changed their vote under pressure to end deliberations. The jury had been told to continue discussing the case, and when they returned, the same 10-2 decision remained, resulting in C. murder being convicted of second-degree murder. This case stands out from most homicide trials in the United States. In 48 states and in federal courts, a 10-2 vote would have produced a hung jury. But at that time, Louisiana permitted non-unanimous verdicts. 2 jurors voted not guilty, yet their disagreement did not stop the conviction. One juror, Mary Jacob, later reported that she and another juror, a 20-year-old student at Xavier University of Louisiana, were verbally pressured by other jurors because they wanted to acquit. Jacob said the tension became so intense that one juror even felt physically sick. Her sworn testimony suggested that the change in vote was not based on evidence but rather the heavy pressure from fellow jurors. Miller's defense attorney pointed to this issue, arguing that one guilty vote was given to end the harassment of another juror, not because of the facts presented during the trial. That on August 14, Hans Liljeberg sentenced C. murder to mandatory life in prison without the possibility of parole, based on that 10-2 jury verdict, despite claims that jurors had been pressured. Beyond this case, the 10-2 decision later became a major topic in U.S. legal debates. In Ramos v. Louisiana, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Sixth Amendment requires criminal convictions to be unanimous, meaning guilty verdicts cannot be reached over the objection of dissenting jurors. The ruling also applied the Sixth Amendment's requirement for unanimous criminal convictions to the states, overturning earlier decisions from the 1972 cases Apodaca versus Oregon and Johnson versus Louisiana. At that time, only Oregon and Louisiana still allowed non-unanimous jury verdicts. In 2020, the U.S. Supreme Court confirmed what C. Murder's supporters had argued for years: non-unanimous jury convictions are unconstitutional. Public attention surged when Kim Kardashian tweeted, "The jury convicted Cory 10-2, and he was sentenced to life in prison. If his trial happened today, the jury would need to be unanimous to convict him." However, there was an important limitation. The Supreme Court later ruled in Edwards v. Vanoy that the Ramos v. Louisiana decision would not apply retroactively to people who had already exhausted their appeals. Miller had done exactly that. On February 19, 2013, the Supreme Court denied Miller v. Louisiana his final appeal. This meant that even though the system that convicted him was later declared unconstitutional, the ruling provided him no relief if the non-unanimous jury issue represented one side of C. Murder's legal struggle. Witness recantations became the other. These developments have sparked outrage from attorneys, celebrities, and members of the public. In June 2018, Miller's case was featured on Investigation Discovery's Reasonable Doubt. During the episode, Kenneth Jordan recanted his testimony, admitting it was false. Jordan explained that detectives pressured him to testify against Miller, warning that he could face a 10-year sentence for unrelated criminal charges if he refused. This involved a witness appearing on national television and admitting he had lied under oath, claiming law enforcement pressured him to do so. One of the two main witnesses who identified rapper Cory C. Murder Miller as the alleged shooter in the 2002 nightclub incident in Harvey, Louisiana later recanted his testimony. In a sworn statement, Kenneth Jordan said detectives from the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office pressured him to lie while threatening criminal charges. Jordan stated in 2018 that if he refused to give false testimony against Miller, he could face a 10-year sentence for unrelated offenses. "I know the person I saw fire the weapon was not Cory Miller," Jordan said at the time that it wasn't only Kenneth Jordan. The other key witness, Donnell Jordan, also said in 2018 that he felt pressured to provide false testimony under oath. Although they share the same last name, the two witnesses are not related. Donnell Jordan later signed a statement declaring he was certain the No Limit Records rapper did not fire the shot that killed the victim. Both witnesses eventually recanted, saying C. Murder was not the shooter. After these developments, Miller's attorney quickly filed new motions. Defense lawyer Barker argued that the recantations raised serious constitutional issues. He explained that on several occasions, both before his 2018 statement and even before the original trial testimony, Kenneth Jordan had told law enforcement and prosecutors that his 2003 recorded statement to the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office was false, that the real shooter was not Cory Miller, and that he did not want to lie under oath to implicate him. According to the defense, the state never disclosed this crucial information to Miller's legal team.